So it was exactly 1 month ago today, actually, that Okta came out and announced its latest security breach, which I think was the third, but one of you corrected me and said it was the fourth, but we'll get into that in a second. And what was different this time, the last time was a third party breach, but they also were very late in disclosing that one as well. And I think the implications and the effect on their reputation was less about the breach itself last time, but more about the way they handled it. And you would have expected they would have learned from that, but it seemingly they didn't because it's come out since that their customers, including 1Password and Beyond Trust, which is another identity access management vendor, both notified Okta of suspicious activity almost a month prior to them coming out and saying it. So again, the breach itself is directly a concern, but I think what's even more concerning is this pattern of them really not disclosing it to their customers in a timely manner. So with that, gentlemen, I'm just going to kind of go round robin, ask each of you your understanding of it, and what you think that the current implications might be for Okta as we go forward. I'm just going to go in order of my screen here. Danny, if you don't mind starting.
I think I would actually start by mentioning that for me, it's less about the time it took them to notify their customers and the amount of time that the bad actor was actually in the environment for. It was something like 14 days before they figured it out. And that's according to the release, that's even with some of the third parties telling them something weird was going on. 14 full days is a little mind boggling to me in terms of their what's going to happen to them. Crystal ball gazing engaged, I guess. That I know from my point of view and what I'm doing with my industry, my company, we're actually starting to phase Okta out. The fact that this keeps happening to them, and in that, like I said, that last case, they were in there for such a long time before getting booted out is. I'm just not comfortable suggesting it as a product for a lot of my clients anymore. And we do have a few clients that we've put it in for, and now we're actively looking at some alternatives.
That's fantastic. We'll double click on that in a little bit. Very interesting to have to force to make that decision. Okta's always been considered a best of breed vendor. I mean, really has been. And then they went out and made another great acquisition in Auth0 that was more, DevOps friendly. And it really just seemed to be unstoppable until these series of breaches started to happen in the last few years. Chris, I'm going to jump to you, sir. Currently, are you a user of Okta? And how do you feel about the latest security breach that's happened here?
We are currently using Okta, and Okta's kind of taken the corporate stance of almost doubling down. So we got a notification actually after the public, which again, like you mentioned earlier, is not a good thing. By my account, when we had discussed a little bit earlier, this to me seems like the fourth breach. So as we had the Lapis incident in January of 2022. Then we had the one-time passwords with Twilio in August of 2022. Then we had GitHub, which is on Microsoft's backbone. That's their company, December 2022, and now this. So it has caused a lot of raised eyebrows. Well, more than raised eyebrows in my world. I do have a law degree myself, and that background is specifically in cyber law. So what I've uncovered, kind of these last years, if everybody remembers back in Christmas time, 2013, Target has their big data breach, and they kind of come out with, we think it only affected, maybe 70,000 accounts. And then they announced 3 weeks later, after it's kind of died down, the hush has died down, that it actually affected closer to 4 million. So I think what we're seeing is a trend in cybersecurity of the kind of bait and switch. So we'll announce something, kind of make it seem smaller up front, and then after the dust settles a little bit, then we can kind of come back around and kind of disclose what's really going on. I don't like that. I think that is that tactic or that policy is creating a culture in which we're kind of accepting, like, oh well, breaches will happen and stuff. And really, if you're Okta, I mean, you're the big boy on the field. That should not be happening.
I agree. I think most of your colleagues would share that sentiment. Robert, I'm going to jump to you now, sir, to current usage of Okta, if this is going to create any potential consideration on your usage or not going forward.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Large user of Okta and Auth0. So not only do we have the internal considerations, but managing a lot of the customer considerations, right? Making sure that their identities and entry points to their systems are not experiencing anything. So managing both sides of that relationship and maintaining the confidence of our revenue streams while trying to be cognizant of the engagement and support that Okta is providing us. Look, I get that every organization, no matter what vertical you're in, right, size, complexity, is going to have events to deal with. But one of the things that I continue to challenge Okta on, and am surprised that wasn't robustly deployed, was the level of adequate monitoring, alerting, or playbooks, right? So for some organizations of that size, complexity, and that whose value proposition is all about furthering the security, hygiene, posture, alerting, and awareness, I found their response and the forensics accounting, at least of what they've communicated to have happened, a bit lackluster and surface level, especially when they started talking about, adjusting how they're going to monitor and react. That's what strikes my confidence level and what we're doing from not just a vendor support, vendor trust perspective, but what does that mean when it's ultimate contract renewal, and how do we continue to enhance our resilience against trusted providers? Well, I should say, we hope there's certain degrees of trust that we can, apply to them, but it shakes the core of how you can continue, insulating oneself against, some of the ramifications of the lack of perceived seriousness that they place on this. I think that's what shook a lot of us and some of our customers to the core, and where you would hope and think that they do a lot better, and hopefully it's going to continue shining some more light on the depth and sophistication of how they monitor, alert, and respond. I think that's what got me the most.